it just zoomed so fast. It was so fast. I realized that I would probably have time to graft the shoulders before filming the podcast today. And so I have something that I'm really proud of, like that really looks like a sweater. So I thought we better try this on. Hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Nitty Natty. Welcome to episode 290 of the Love and Stitches podcast. I am realizing that we are starting to get close to the 300th episode. I was looking today at the calendar and saw that that would fall sometime in December, but I don't always do podcasts in December, so I think it's going to be early in the new year, which is kind of perfect. So I'm starting to think about what special things I could do for that episode. So if you have any ideas, feel free to let me know. I am coming to you today from Columbia, I think it's Columbia, Missouri. We are going to have a short and sweet episode today for two reasons. One, we are literally in the middle of our road trip getting back to Tennessee. Last week I came to you from Yellowstone, which was so exciting. I got to be outdoors. This week I'm in the van because I'm just in a boring old parking lot and Ken is in a coffee shop working. I did get myself some coffee, which is really, really good. But it is like a 6:30 p.m. coffee because we still have more driving to do today. So that's one of the reasons why it's going to be a little shorter. But also I only worked on one project this week. I have done a ton on this project and I promise I still have lots to talk about and lots of entertainment. I have really good questions to answer this week. So we're still going to have a whole lot of fun. But first I want to thank today's podcast sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting out or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it so easy to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything from content to products to time, all in one place and all on your own terms. I'll be sharing more about Squarespace later on in the episode. All right, let's get into my one project for this week. So if you didn't watch last week's episode, I started a new cardigan. It is called the Leith Cardigan by Rebecca Clow. It is so beautiful. It has all these fun colors in it. And I got my yarn in one of our last cities in Canada at Polka Dot Creek, and I'm so happy with it. But I realized on the same day that I filmed last week's podcast that I had accidentally cast on the wrong size, a size too small. And I had decided to go ahead and restart, but I hadn't ripped it out yet. So I showed the progress that I had made, and I actually took a picture because I wanted to document it. So here's a picture of how far I had gotten on the sweater in the wrong size, and I ended up recasting on. So, and before I frogged anything, I went ahead and cast on again. I had some extra balls of yarn that weren't attached to the sweater, and I got started on my bottom ribbing. This is a bottom-up cardigan, and once I had restarted, I felt a little better, and then I was mentally ready to frog. And plus I needed some space to frog it because I had 4 balls of yarn attached. I'll explain that later, but I laid it out on the bed. I got it all frogged. I needed to go ahead and frog it right away because I needed my 2 contrast colors. So a lot of what you're going to see is what you may have already seen last week, but it's all new knitting because I did it in a different size. But I have made it pretty far. I've had a lot of knitting time this past week, especially the last 2 days, as we've had about 2 like 10-hour driving days. And look at it now. I have made so much progress. I have done all of this in the last week. It is wild what you can accomplish when you're just working on one thing and when you have a lot of driving time. I will say that helps a lot. So I just grafted the shoulders, which is wild. And I'm now kind of left going, what am I going to do for the next 3 hours of our drive today? Because the next steps are a little more involved, but I want to walk you through this a little bit first because I didn't get to share as many details as I normally would on a project last week because my whole thing was like, I made the wrong size and I have to rip it out. So let's start with yarn. I'm just going to show that really quickly because I know I have showed it before, and I do have all the yarn, all the colors linked in my project page. I did make sure to do that. I'm not even sure I have a photo up on the project page, but all of the colors are in there. So at least I got that. So this yarn, I knew it. I knew I had my auto thing off. Does this work? Oh shoot, Kent, you're gonna have to show me how to do it again. Anyway, it's Polka Dot Creek. It's the worsted weight, another reason why it's going so nice and fast. The main color I'm using is called Sand. That's the nice light neutral color. Oh, this is gonna drive me crazy. I'll have to figure that out. I don't remember how to do it and how I keep turning it off, but I'll figure it out after this. I've used my brown and pink. And how fun is this? So you do intarsia, but you can do offset stripes. This is just one of the samples she has. There's so many different ways to do it, and I really liked that. So I've got my offset stripes. So then each of the fronts is a different color, and they will look a whole lot whiter once I actually block it and get the button band. See, look how curly it is. It just keeps unraveling. So that will look really, really nice. So I've had a lot of fun with that. I'm sorry, I'm gonna fix the camera and then I'll come back and talk about this. I think we got it. We'll see. I hope so. Where was I? So when I started this, you start at the bottom with your main color and you do a bunch of ribbing, and then you introduce your second color. So you can see kind of going across here, you've basically got two panels, essentially split in half. And so then you've got two colors going. And then you kind of have to make a choice once you get up here to what I have as a pink stripe and a neutral stripe. So these two, at first I thought could be the same ball of yarn, and then I realized that wasn't gonna work, at least for my striping sequence. I'm doing 12 rows per stripe, and I'll talk a little bit about how I figured that out too, because I think that that is helpful information that I didn't find in the pattern. I kind of had to figure out on my own, so I wanted to share that too. So I thought that these two could maybe be from the same ball, so I could have just 3 balls of yarn, but that didn't work out because since I was doing even rows, for one of these, the yarn would end up like on one side, and for the other one, it would end up on the other side. I don't know, it's a little hard to explain, but essentially the yarn didn't end up where I would need it on the next stripe. So that didn't work. So I ended up with 4 balls of yarn attached, and I did carry all of my yarn up the center. So you can see it here where I carried things. And I just made sure when I carried to do 2 things. One, I made sure to kind of like cross it over with the color that I was starting. So very similar to how you do like the whole intarsia piece in the first place. So I just made sure that I like caught the yarn so there wasn't any gaps. Then the other thing I did is I was very, very careful when I went to knit those first few stitches of a new color to really elongate my stripe before, my row before, so that that carry was long enough and had enough give. So I had to really concentrate on that when switching colors, and then it was all good. And I think it's all gonna be fine. It seems plenty stretchy and flexible. For me, this was, even though having 4 balls of yarn, especially riding in the car with a dog in my lap, you can't see Toaster Buddies right here, it was kind of annoying to have that many balls of yarn attached, but it was worth it for me to not have that many ends to weave in. Not just the annoyance of having to go back and weave in those ends, but the bulk that it would add. I ultimately decided this was the best choice for me personally to have the cleanest look, and then also to save myself a little time later on weaving in ends, and that worked out beautifully. So what I've done the past 2 days as we've been in the car is I've done the fronts. I think I started maybe this one yesterday, and then I picked up and did this front this morning, and then I started on the back where I again had 4 balls of yarn going. So I have a lot of ends now to weave in here, just because there was some, like, you know, obviously with binding off stitches for the armhole, there was some cutting and reattaching and everything, but it's not a super big deal. And then it just zoomed so fast. It was so fast. I realized that I would probably have time to graft the shoulders before filming the podcast today. And so I have something that I'm really proud of, like that really looks like a sweater. So I thought we better try this on and just see, because I did make a choice to do something a little bit smaller in that smaller size, but this time on purpose and not on accident, and that is the length of this sweater. So I think that I have made the right choice because I don't know if I would want this to be any longer. Obviously, this is super cropped, and I'm sorry for this, my appearance, but it is so hot in here. But I think that this is really great as far as length. I'm also so happy I didn't stick with the accidental smaller size because this is a drop shoulder cardigan and I'm not sure it would have dropped over if I didn't have these extra 4 inches. The size that I chose has, I'm a 36-inch bust. I'm knitting the size 41.25. So I'm getting 5 inches of positive ease, and the size I had originally cast on was only 37 inches. So essentially 4 inches of difference in between sizes, right? So if I didn't have that extra 4 inches, I don't think I would have any drop on the shoulder here at all. So I'm really glad I started over. Really, really glad. I think this is going to fit me so much better. And it's like a nice, like comfy, relaxed fit. So there is a button band. So I'm considering, do I want to do the button band next and save the sleeves for when we get back to Tennessee? Or do I want to pick up a sleeve tonight and start working on the sleeves? By the way, I have different colors for the sleeves, so I will need to wind some yarn. I'm going to still alternate with the sand, the main color, but then on the brown side, I'm going to be doing this like nice tealy blue. It's called Spruce. And on the green side, on the pink side, I'm going to be doing this green, which is called Moss. So if you can imagine the sleeves looking like this, and then the band will be in the main color. So I don't know exactly what I'm going to do yet, but I'm hoping to make a lot more great progress on this week. Okay, one last thing I wanted to share was how I calculated the stripes and the decision I made to actually knit lengths that were one size down. So when I originally cast a sweater on in the totally wrong size, I did all the math that I needed to figure out how to fit 10.5 stripes. That's what Rebecca said she did for hers that looks like this with the thick stripes. She said she did 10.5 stripes on the fronts and the backs. And the half stripe is so that when you graph things at the top, you have a full stripe. Now, I did kind of make a choice / sort of an error where this one actually has 13 because I didn't realize it was like grafting. I thought it was a 3-needle bind off. And when you graft, you add an extra row. So technically these ones here have 13 rows. Everything else has 12. I don't think it matters that much. I don't think you're going to notice, except that I just told you. So I didn't really care that this one has 1 extra, but basically they line up nicely, which I do like. That was a weird blur, but they line up very nicely, which I do like. So in order to figure out how to do that, I needed to do a little math. So it wasn't that hard. I had a gauge swatch and I measured my gauge swatch and I found my rows per inch, which were 7. So I had 7 rows per inch. And then I looked at the schematic and I looked at the total length of the sweater. So in total, again, for that smaller size, I believe it was 20 inches. So I went ahead and subtracted 2 because 2 inches were the ribbing. And then I had 18 inches for stripes, 7 of which were in the sleeve. And what does that leave me with? 11 in the body. So how did I do this? Because I did this math a bunch of times. Basically, we'll do it together. I did my row gauge of 7 times 18, because that's how many inches. And I learned I would need 126 total rows. So again, for all my stripes. Then I divided that by the number of stripes I wanted, which was 10.5. And I got an even number, which like never happens. And that number was 12. And I thought, perfect. It's so nice to have an even number. That means I'm going to end on a wrong side, like working a wrong side row. So my stripes will always be even. My yarn will always be where I need it to be. Perfect. Then I realized I made the wrong size, and when I went to the next size up, the lengths also increased. So in total, it increased by 1 inch, a ½ inch in the arm hole and a ½ inch on the body. But when I really thought about it, I thought, you know, it's not just because I want to use the math that I already did and the perfect math, how it came out, so lucky. But also I don't think I need that extra inch. I think that's gonna be a little too long and it's just not gonna work out right. I kind of tried to do it. It would sort of end up being like basically 13 rows per stripe, which I didn't really like because then your yarn is not always where you leave it and I would have to cut the yarn and I didn't really want to mess with that. And so I just decided, I think I'm happy with the length of the smaller size. I'm just going to work it that way. And that will mean I think that I'm going to pick up fewer stitches around the sleeves and I'm essentially going to work a smaller size for the sleeve. But I knew that would be okay because I looked at the schematic and I knew it would still fit my arms. So there's a whole bunch of math, one for figuring out stripes, but also for kind of like mashing sizes together. So width-wise, I am making the 41.25. Lengthwise, I decided to do the 37 and whatever it was. Okay, that's all I have for this project and all the knitting that I have done this week. I mean, quite literally, I think I maybe knit a half a row on a sock, but I have just been obsessed with this one. It's been really good comfort knitting as we've been doing a lot of different for us stuff this week. I'll get to that later in the life segment, but it's just been such a joy to work on. Let's get into our questions. If you do have any questions for me, knitting-wise, crochet-wise, travel, life, just put them in the comments below. I will do my best to either answer them in the comments or answer them in the next episode, as I am doing for these from last week's episode. All right, here is question number 1. Hey Natalie, I just had a question for you. How often do you find you have to replace your crochet hooks or knitting needles? I'm contemplating on whether to stock up on my hooks as a serious crocheter, or if that's even necessary to do. Thanks so much. I love this question because I feel like this is something you can't really Google, and I'm happy to give my opinion on this and what I think is best, but also I love it when everyone shares the information and background and thoughts that they have on these topics. So as always, feel free to respond to these questions down below too. I think it really helps people out. I know it helps me out because I get to read your answers and like learn new things as well from you guys. So here are my thoughts. I think it depends on the material of your hooks and needles and also your personal like mileage on them and how hard wearing you are on them. Of course it does, right? Everyone's going to be slightly different. So I feel like personally for me, crochet hooks, because I use a metal crochet hook and because I don't crochet quite as much as I knit, I am probably never gonna have to replace them, maybe in like 30 years. I mean, they are hard wearing. If I was using a particular size a lot, I might stock up more in that size, but that's more because I tend to lose crochet hooks more than anything. And I just want to have backups and replacements just in case I misplace it. For knitting needles, my answer is a little different because I am a wooden needle user. And I find that my wooden needle tips, especially these Lantern Moon ones, unfortunately, I don't have a needle on here. I think it's way up in the front. I have the Lantern Moon ebony needles. I absolutely love them. The cord is awesome. The needle is awesome. It's just sharp enough, it's not too blunt, but I do find that the needle tips are already wearing on them. And that is really unfortunate because they are pretty expensive and I haven't had them for more than a few years. I have replaced some needle tips from Lantern Moon, mostly the size 3, but that's only because I leave my project bag on the floor and then I sometimes step on it. So that's not really normal use, but I have heard other people say that they do break sometimes, the interchangeable ones, when you're putting them on. So in the wooden knitting needle case, I think this goes for some brands, but also like some needle types, like DPNs are notoriously easy to break. So if you have something like that, you might want to consider stocking up more because you're going to break them more. The one other thing I can think of is I know some people who bend their needles, their metal needles, because of the way they grip or even just their like body temperature and usage of those. So I'm particularly thinking about sock knitters who make a lot of socks who use chow goose or a similar metal type needle in a really small size. What will happen is it will start to curve literally to fit your hand, particularly if you are knitting right-handed, which just means going in a clockwise direction, I think that's right, that it will be your right hand that kind of like bends or curves it over, because the right hand has a little more movement, at least for me, when I am knitting in that direction. So in that case, it will eventually get to the point where it's actually not very comfortable, that needle is so bent, or you'll go to use it for a different project and it will feel very awkward, or somehow it'll get flipped around where it's in your other hand and you're like, why is my needle bent? This is very weird. And it won't be able to stay straight. It will like flip around. So those people who, for whatever reason, their needles do get bent might find that they have to replace them a little more often. So in conclusion, it totally depends. I will say if you have a needle or hook that you particularly love, whether it's going to get worn or you're going to lose it, sometimes things go out of production, and it's really sad when you lose access to your favorite tool. So if you really love something and you know you're feeling like you're going to use it for at least the next 10, 15, 20 years, it wouldn't hurt to have one backup for it. So, but I wouldn't say you have to stock up. Needles and hooks are by no means one-time use. Hopefully you're getting many, many uses out of them. Okay, next question is more about travel. How do you guys deal with healthcare when traveling for so long? Do you set up all of your doctors and toasters vet appointments once you are back home, or do you set up appointments along the way with whatever doctors, vets, dentists are in the towns you plan to be? That is a great question. We are coming to the end of our travel, so luckily this is something we don't have to worry about anymore, but I found it interesting because I have a bunch of appointments set up for this coming week. We are literally trying to get back home by tomorrow because we have a dentist appointment the next day, or we would have probably taken our time a little bit more. So Kent and I both, when we left New York and we were traveling full time, we moved to Tennessee where my parents are, and we set up our residence in Tennessee, and we set up all of our doctors, including Toaster's Vet, in Tennessee, because we knew, since my parents live there, that was a place that we were going to be going back to at least once a year. So we do wait, and we do all of our doctor's visits, dentists. I even have, let's see, I'm going to get a haircut because I really need one. My hair is really long. I'm going to get a haircut this week. I'm going to get like an eyebrow wax because I really need that. I do actually do eyebrow waxes on the road because there's a national chain in the US that I was going to, but I wasn't able to keep up with that in Canada because they aren't in Canada. So we just wait until we get back home. It's much nicer because we have a consistent person that we see at least for the last 2 years. And we made sure to get that all set up before we really started traveling. So that's what's worked best for us. And I'd probably do it the same way again if we somehow ended up in this constant travel situation again. Okay, next question. What project are you going to use your hand spun for? We haven't heard about your spinning adventures lately. It's great to see your Canada content this summer. Now I really want some Polka Dot Creek self-striping yarn to make some socks, right? Their stuff is so good. So you haven't seen my spinning lately, even though my spinning wheel is right up here. I should not have packed it. I think only one time spun in the van. The other times that I was spinning was when I was staying with a friend, and that is literally it. It is taking up so much space and getting absolutely no use. So knowing that, again, if we go in future travel, I probably wouldn't bring my spinning wheel with me. But I did pull out my hand spun because I did finish a project, and I chose not to mail it back to Tennessee because I thought I was going to work on it. I was also scared with something like this, my first hand spun sweater quantity, that it was going to get lost in the mail. So I didn't want to send it home. So I have been carrying around 4 skeins that look like this. This is from the Little Wolf Knits. It was her February countdown of this year, 2025. And it was How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days themed. And it is my biggest spin yet. And my first like real project spin, I've spun it for a sweater. So what I think I'm going to do with this is knit a traveler crew. I have my traveler hoodie right here, and I was just wearing it earlier today. It's very cold when the air conditioning is on, like when you're sitting in the front seat. looks like this, but very warm in the back. I love it. I wear it almost every single day. It is so great and hard wearing and lovely and comfortable. And I think I would really enjoy having the crew neck version of it. And since these are kind of wild colors, I thought that it might be fun to just do something different. So if I can meet the gauge, because I'm not really sure what the gauge is on this, I think it probably would be a sport weight, which is what this yarn is. Then I'm gonna make that. And I was gonna make it while we were traveling, except then I kept getting more and more sweater quantities that I figured I should go ahead and work on first. So this is probably coming, and hopefully in the very near future. And also hopefully I can get back to spinning again. All right, last question. And I've had this one a lot actually, and I keep meaning to answer it and then I keep forgetting. It's not on purpose, but have you ever thought of traveling across Europe and doing yarn shops there? And then they just said I asked it under the wrong video previously. Don't worry about that. Maybe that's where I saw it, under a different video. So I would love to travel to Europe. That would be so much fun. I don't think we'll be doing anything like we've done in the US and Canada, where we're renting a vehicle and staying for like a longer period of time. Ken and I have never been to Europe before, to any country. So I think we want to go and just like explore for a bit before we go and do some filming and everything. Plus we also have Toaster, and Toaster, I guess he could come with us to Europe, but that would be very hard. So we don't want to leave him for too long. So I'm hoping that maybe in the next few years, once we've found a place to live and we're settled and we're a little removed from this long travel, we can do some of those further away, international flights, going to explore different countries. I would absolutely love that. So yes, hopefully that will be coming at some point in time. And even if we're not doing what we're doing now with the yarn store tours, I don't foresee me like not sharing things, at least through Instagram, or talking about them on the podcast and sharing pictures and photos. So I will definitely share that if that happens. Okay, that's all the questions for today. Again, if you have any for me, just leave them down below. Put the hashtag question in front. That helps me find them really quickly, and I'll do my best to answer them in next week's episode. Thank you again to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Toaster is gonna come join us for this one. I have been a Squarespace user for going on 3 years now, and I genuinely love using the platform. It's something that I'm getting to every single week to kind of tweak things for nittynatty.com. The great thing about Squarespace is you do not need to be an expert to get started. I was able to create mine with just a few clicks, and then you can go on and tweak everything from there. They also have all of their amazing templates, and then you can even go on and just click through different options, which pulls up different fonts, different color schemes. It could not be easier. And Squarespace isn't just a website platform. They also have several other things that you can use. They have their Acuity scheduling, which I used to use when I did online teaching. I would do knit and crochet private lessons, and it was really easy to set up. People would book through there, and then I could set up that it would send them an email or even a text reminder, and it was so handy. You can also create a membership area or even sell online courses. The options are truly endless. And Squarespace makes it super easy to take payments. Customers now have even more ways to pay with popular options like Klarna, ACH Direct Debit, Apple Pay, Afterpay, and ClearPay. If you're a small business owner, it's so easy to get started with Squarespace. Go to squarespace.com, you can get a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, you can go to squarespace.com/nittynatty and use my code nittynatty to get 10% off your first website or domain. Thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get into the next segment. I'm skipping the news section today because I don't really have much to add, but I did want to say one thing because it's festival season. It was DFW Fiberfest last weekend. Rhinebeck is coming up. SAF is coming up. And I just wanted to share, because I don't think I've shared this actually, that I am not attending anything this year. We do not know what our plan is for the next few weeks, let alone the rest of the year, whether we are moving or not. I'm going to get into that too. So we just decided no Rhinebeck this year. I'm a little bit sad because it's so much fun, but I'm also it's kind of nice because we get to take a year off, and it makes it even more exciting if we end up going back next year, or maybe we'll get to do some other stuff. I don't really know yet. So I just wanted to say that because I've had a couple people say that they will see me at Rhinebeck, and I'm like, oh no, I'm not going to be there. I'm not going to be there this year. And I know I'm going to have major FOMO that weekend. So I will probably be just watching vicariously through Instagram. So have so much fun. DFW Fiberfest looked like an absolute blast this year, and I'm sad I missed that one too, but we can't go to the mall, right? Okay, so this last week has been an interesting one. We have finished out our trip in Canada. Last week we did some traveling through the US. We were in Yellowstone for a little, or we were in Glacier and then Yellowstone. I shared about that last week. And then we started making our way back to Tennessee, but not in a super direct way. We had a couple places we wanted to stop first, and we actually looked at some apartments because we're trying to figure out where we want to live and when we want to move. And it's so amazing. Like, we're very blessed and lucky. My family is so supportive that we don't have to rush to make any decisions because we do have a space to go in my parents' house. And I guess even if we didn't, we could stay in this van until we were ready to move somewhere else. So we've got options, and I feel very lucky for that. But we're also really excited to like move into the next chapter. We want to get an apartment. We want to pick a new city to live in that we haven't lived in before. And so we're weighing a lot of options kind of running through our mind. And so we might be choosing soon, or we might not. Like, we still literally don't know. So we did some fun visiting apartments this week, which was really exciting. Then we also stopped and visited some friends, and that kind of delayed us getting back to Tennessee. Actually, we were supposed to just go to dinner with these friends. We visited them in Utah, and we were having so much fun. We were like hanging out at their house. They made dinner for us, which was amazing. And then they were like, you can stay the night here. You don't have to stay in your van. Like, stay with us. We have a guest room. So we were like, okay. So that was really, really nice. And then we were like, well, maybe we'll just stay one more day and have a solid work day and get some video editing done for our next Canada, or for our final Canada vlog. So we ended up doing that. I'm really glad we did, because now we are like gonna be really hitting it close to get back to Tennessee. There's no way we would have been able to have the energy after we did these 3 long days of driving to then work on a video for a full day. So I'm really glad we did that. It gave us a good like reset, and also got to visit with friends. So that was super, super fun. And then we've just been driving. That's it. There's really been nothing else going on this week. Like I said, I got a lot of time to work on this sweater. There was a lot of time where in the evenings when we were at those 2 nights with friends, where I was just hanging out, chatting. We played a game one night, hanging out, and I got a lot done on this sweater. So that's all really nice, but it's also like a weird time vortex where it felt like no time happened between last week and this week. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the day that I record my podcast. What have I even done? But I did do pretty much half a sweater, so I don't feel too bad about that. Maybe next week things will be semi back to normal. I don't really know, because we're also going to get back to Tennessee. I have appointment week where I'm going to the dentist and the eye doctor and getting a haircut and just getting life admin back in order, probably cleaning out this van, getting it winterized, and making some decisions about what's coming up next. I also want to finish my Canada blanket. So there's a small chance that we'll have a Canada episode next week and not a podcast, but I don't know yet because I haven't done that yet. So stay tuned. I'll keep you updated, of course, on Instagram, and you'll know because it will be here on the channel. But that's everything for this week. Thanks for sticking around for what ended up being, probably a little bit of a shorter and sweeter episode. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!